From the blockade of Iranian ports, a U.S. warship ordering a commercial vessel to turn around or else.
Captain, you are requested to alter course to 190. If you do not comply, we will compel compliance with force. This is Warship 45. We will monitor your course for compliance at this time. Warship 45 standing by on 16 out.
So at last count as of yesterday, CENTCOM saying it redirected 44 ships. It disabled 2 ships and boarded another 2. That's since President Trump ordered U.S. forces to resume the blockade last month. It also comes after reports this morning that a tanker was struck in the Strait of Hormuz. If so, that would be the 4th attack in the strait going back to last Friday. Dana.
Well, all of this comes after President Trump slammed the Iranian leadership yesterday, accusing them of lying about peace talks. The president says they are happening. Iran says they are not. Trump warning the regime they have one final opportunity to make a deal or face, quote, decapitation.
When we talk, we say we're talking. If we're not talking, when you ask me, no, we're not talking, I'll say it. But we are talking right now. We're talking, and we're talking at the request of Iran, backed by Saudi Arabia, backed by UAE, and backed by Qatar in particular, but others also. Many countries called, the leaders of many are friendly with a lot of them, almost all of them, one way or the other, and they all wanted to give this a last chance. This is the last chance.
Rebeccah Heinrichs is a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. What do you know of the talks, on, off? What's going on?
Well, I think that what the president is talking about is clearly we do have the United States negotiators engaging with somebody over in Iran. And this is what the Gulf states want the United States to continue to pursue. As I've said repeatedly, though, Dana, I mean, the Iranians, even publicly, at this point, seem to be in a campaign to embarrass President Trump by saying that there are no negotiations at play. And furthermore, there's no evidence that we have seen that demonstrates the Iranians are actually willing to negotiate in good faith, even if there are individuals who are talking.
Got it.
As Bill just laid out, we still have IRGC shooting into the strait, even just a couple of days ago.
Okay, here's President Trump on the phases of talks with Iran.
The first phase is the opening of the straits. The second phase will be the denuclearization, and that'll take a little while. But we're very strong on it. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
For a long time, you have maintained that time has been on our side, although, as I understand it, your thinking has been altered in 3 ways. Let's take the first one. What would that be?
Well, I mean, first of all, because the Iranians continue to shoot directly at U.S. forces and have killed several more Americans, President Trump, one of his great virtues is that he has said he doesn't want to put troops in harm's way because he does not want American casualties. But the other side of that, Dana, is that if there are American casualties, the United States must do something different than we're doing and exact a great penalty for that. And I have not seen that yet.
All right. And your second change?
The second change, I think, is that the Gulf states have not been helping the United States to the degree that they should, because this is their neighborhood. If the Saudis are going to continue to try to beg the United States not to do what is necessary, I mean, we need to change strategies here with our Gulf partners. In the beginning of the conflict, they were more with us. But then, as we pointed out before, Dana, even the Saudis have restricted airspace against the United States. And so I think at this point, the United States needs to be much more forceful, go alongside the Israelis like we were, and take much more robust military action.
That was echoed by Jonathan Schanzer in the New York Post today, saying that Saudis gravitate toward Middle East basket cases when it should join U.S.'s fight against Iran. With the war at an impasse and the Iranian regime looking increasingly emboldened by that, Saudi Arabia must be put to a choice. And did you have a third point that you wanted to make?
Yes, I do. And that, Dana, is that we've got the credible reporting that the Chinese are considering sending more weapons to Iran. We cannot permit that to happen. And so I do think, although we have the economic advantage, we've got great military power and surging in the region. So we have the advantage vis-a-vis Iran. And in that sense, we can outlast them. But we do not want the Chinese to get involved in this. And so that's why I think we do need to move quickly to try to compel the Iranians to to stop. And that means, I think, much more robust military action to hit different targets than we've been hitting, including the IRGC themselves and energy infrastructure that the IRGC relies on for their war effort. I think that that is necessary, and time is of the essence.
So not a lot of movement in terms of progress, I guess, in terms of talks, but movement in your thinking. And thanks for sharing that today as we get ready to watch all of this for the rest of the week. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.